Well, we have Norman Rule, former United States National Intelligence Manager, joining us from Washington to break this down. So to begin, break down how the Islamic State has been infiltrating Africa and what kinds of attacks that they've been carrying out.
Well, good evening. Since 2014, a broad number of African insurgent groups and local terrorist organizations have gradually joined the ISIS organization. This accelerated in 2015 and 2016. In some places, it didn't work so well for ISIS, in others it did. As the ISIS caliphate fell apart, ISIS saw that Africa represented this useful terrain, very large geographies, very weak governance, where it could reorganize and maintain its activities.
Now, which areas of Africa are the most at threat, and why Africa?
Well, there are about 12 or 13 countries where ISIS currently operates in Africa. There are three major cells, as I would put it. There is a Western African cell, a Central African cell, and sort of a Sinai-based cell. And these cells conduct the most activities. But I think it's important also to recognize that the number of insurgents or terrorists in these organizations varies. In the West African cell, which is generally located in Mali, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, for example. This includes remnants of the Boko Haram group. And there are as many as 4,500 to 5,000 personnel in this group. Whereas if you were to go to some of the smaller organizations, say in Libya, where it wasn't as successful over time, there are only about 500 in that area. If you move to other parts of Southeast Africa or other countries, there may be only as many as 25 or 50 members of these groups. The difficulty is this is an enormous terrain. These are extremely different conflicts in each area. The conflicts are locally driven, and once locally driven and they obtain an external guidance or external leader, they're very difficult to put down over time.
Now, this rise in violence from the Islamic State in Africa is coming up as the Trump administration is moving to slash U.S. troop deployments and curtail support for local governments in Africa. How will cutting back on U.S. military forces impact these extremists and their advances?
Well, our U.S. military presence in Africa, along with those of our French partners, has been very useful. We have been able to train local forces, to provide them with intelligence support, to provide them with certain technologies they may not have. And this has enabled us to prevent multiple terrorist attacks, to keep the organizations on the run or small. Some of the region's military are quite good. Senegal, for example, has won praise by its American counterparts for its effective work. But I think it's more important to consider that this is not necessarily a military problem. Certainly there are military aspects to this problem, but this is something that requires better governance locally, requires resolution of these issues. So this is a whole of government effort we need to look at, not just something for our military.
Well, and the coronavirus certainly is not helping the situation right now in Africa and across the world. I mean, what do you think needs to be done to curtail the Islamic State's growth in Africa? Who needs to get involved?
Well, this is an international situation. And unlike, say, in Afghanistan or in the ISIS areas of Syria, where you had a broad and very focused coalition, you don't have that same sort of international effort in Africa. You have a number of players who are working this issue, but this would benefit from greater international support. Provision of intelligence activities, provision of material and assistance and training to the forces on the ground. But in the end, this needs to be an African solution to each of these individual problems to keep this from coming back. Less and less of a military solution. Where we have been particularly effective in helping these countries to destroy the leadership of these individual groups. But because the local problems persist, new leaders appear rather quickly.